starts, I'll post it.
Okay, because it is listed as on there.
Yeah, it is on the page, but I think we have to share it to the group. I can do that.
Okay. Well, we are live, so we will follow that up and figure it out for anybody out there. I can see that no one started watching the stream yet, but still, we've been having some problems connecting to Facebook due to some new things, so we have to find a new method of dealing with that. So, apologies for the delay on that front. But before we get started with our discussion of the Red Shoes, I do want to handle a little bit of housekeeping. This is our movie club, but we actually have 2 other multimedia clubs here at the Dragonfly Arts Collective. We have a monthly listening club, which we will be talking about Billie Eilish on this coming Friday, the 31st. We also have a quarterly book club. So for that, we meet every 3 months. We just started a new book this month. It's Werner Herzog's most recent memoir, which I've said it in the group. I'll say it again. I absolutely think that you should listen to this instead of physically read it. I just think hearing stories from someone's mouth is fun. I actually know very little about this memoir. It was chosen by the group, so we'll be discussing that at the end of July. So you have plenty of time to read it if you'd like to join us for that. You do have to let us know if you would like to join these calls because we only really have room for like absolute maximum of 5, but we try to generally keep it around 4 people. If you want to join us for any of those, we announce it on the 1st of the month in our Facebook group, for which I will put a handy dandy link right over Derek's face. We'll announce them in the group there, and you'd be able to comment on that or reach out to us through the Facebook group if you'd like to be on the panels. If you can't make it onto the panels or you just don't want to be a part of the discussion on camera or anything, you can always join the discussions in the comments. If you're watching it live, we get those comments, we can see them, we can respond to you in real time. If you're watching it on the replay, if it's on Facebook, I will definitely get the notifications. If it's on YouTube, it takes me a lot longer to see them. But I started these because I like media and I like talking about it. So I'm always down to talk about this or any of our previous picks that are all also up on the Facebook group. Facebook group is not just for these media clubs. We do a lot of stuff. We have meetups. We have weekly feedback calls so you can share your work with others and get feedback on it. We have creative discussions, and there's a lot of users over there that, have a variety of creative interests, and it's just a wealth of information. So, yeah, join us over there. That's completely free if you like what we do and you'd like to support us. We also have a Patreon, so you can support us there for as little as $2 a month. There are currently not any perks, but we are working on getting that up. So there will be soon, but right now the perk is that you're supporting us and you're supporting all the work that we do, and it gives us, the bandwidth to continue to do really fun stuff. So that is my little talk. So, but today we are talking about the 1948 movie The Red Shoes, which, boy oh boy, what an art house film this is. I'm a huge fan of it. I always start these calls off by asking, but have you guys seen this before?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. We have a great mix of people on this because Sam is a ballerina herself, and Derek knows more about movies than most people that I talk to, and I work in the movie industry, so it's quite impressive. Second question, did you like it?
I like the very middle of it.
That's fair.
I watched the whole movie just for that part. No.
I would watch this movie again for the middle part as well.
Yeah.
The costumes and the stage makeup, and I was also trying to figure out the star is a dancer as well, but it was part her and her dance double, whose name I unfortunately forget from the credits off the top of my
That's
head.
okay. I have a slide that lists everybody's names.
Yeah, there we go. Victoria Page is the star.
Yeah. I do know that they are all, professional dancers. So
Yeah, I just remember watching like the ballet production of the ballet in the movie and thinking how exhausting it looked to be dancing that vigorously for that long.
I think they even make a comment about it, about how you can't go 100% all of the time.
I can tell you I can't even do half of that, so or a quarter. The day I can do that, I mean, is the day my career is over.
I mean, Moira Shearer is not just any ballerina. Like, she was like top of the game as well. Like, she is a phenomenal ballerina. So
Yeah, I was very impressed by the dancing
Mhm.
in the movie.
I bet her shoes have no padding either. They didn't have padding back then, well, yeah.
They had to have something.
I don't know, maybe.
I will say this now at the start, but there will be spoilers for the movie. So if you are opposed to that, maybe come back and listen to our talk afterwards. And I wanted to say that now because all I could think about was the very, very end of this movie when he takes off her shoes, and I'm just like, ah, yes. And then you see all of the wraps and all of the bandages and all of the like just really gross feet. Her feet are pristine when he takes the shoes
Right.
off in the movie. But
Yeah.
when it happened, I was just like,
I was trying to think, I was like, am I remembering it wrong?
no. In fact, because she's like covered in blood, everything under the shoes is like there's like an outline of the shoes that's just like perfectly clear.
Yeah.
This is a movie that has a very clear message. So I figured we'd start with that. I mean, it's based on a fairy tale and is the fairy tale with the fairy tale set in the middle of it and in the form of a ballet. So I figured we'd start with the broad stuff and then work our way into the more interesting details of how this movie was made and just the artistry that went into it. So yeah, what did you guys get out of it?
I mean, it seems like ballet ends badly for women, so don't become a ballerina. Is the theme that I'm picking up on based on films I've seen about ballet.
It's a rough career path. Yeah.
There's actually an interesting thing that I read specifically about that movie and that specific statement that I do want to talk about later. Because the movie itself isn't just about ballet.
Also, if you're a woman, you can't have it all. That's what I got.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Marriage, pregnancy. Wait, was there a pregnancy? No, marriage, yeah.
We finished watching it and Ryan goes, I don't think the message of this movie was a good one.
Not really.
Because it is. It's very much, I mean, the story of the red shoes, the actual fairy tale is girl puts on red dancing shoes that she's incredibly excited about and then goes to the dance and then she can't stop dancing because the shoes are not done dancing. And it consumes her. And this movie itself is all a woman doing everything she can to move to the top of her career she puts on the red shoes as the ballet. She tastes that fame, and then she decides to run away from the ballet for marriage, but she can't quite escape ballet. And so it just like kind of destroys her relationship in the weirdest way possible. Like one of those things where like I have to like go back in time a little bit and be like, ah, yes, this was a different time frame, because it feels
Yeah.
like there's an easy solution here.
Right. It as watching this in 2024, I had to constantly remind myself of that too, because it's like I just want to reach through the screen and shake her and be like, he doesn't support you. Dump him.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
But it's also just like, I don't know, it was just so weird to me of her being like, yeah, I can't be in London for his, because he's a composer and he's premiering his big opera. And she decides to go perform ballet instead of see the premiere of his opera. And so he bails on the premiere of his opera to go yell at her for bailing on his opera to go dancing.
I thought he was yelling at her for dancing, specifically for Lermontov.
Yeah, specifically for him.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, yeah, Lermontov also has feelings for her.
Does he though?
He also, that was part of his issue with it. It's very subtle.
Well, I can see where that comes from, but at the same time, knowing the period in which this film was made, I read him as queer coded, and it was more that he cared about ballet, her as a dancer so much, like he wanted to mold her into the perfect dancer, more than he wanted her to be happy. Kind of thing.
Yeah, these are all pawns for him to
Yeah.
use, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't pick it up that, because like from my point of view, I was like, he just wants his dancers to be fully into the dance and not do anything else. And then I was reading a lot of things later on, and no, they tried to paint him as he also was falling in love with her, which doesn't quite like fall in line with the other ballerina who also got married and then kicked out of the. But then he invites her back anyways, even though she is.
Yeah.
So
married. Getting married is not a career ender. So
he just has to get over the fact that he is no longer the only thing in their lives.
Right. The most influential male presence.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I view Lermontov as the main character. I think this is a movie that's based around him.
Like from his perspective.
Kind of, yeah. I mean,
I could see that.
You learn about their romance from him. You learn about their romance at the same time that Lermontov learns about them. Everything is kind of from his perspective.
It's kind of hinted at before it's revealed, though.
Yeah. But you rarely see things that are just Victoria Page being Victoria Page. It's usually from Lermontov, or it is from one of the other guys' perspective. It's one of the other guys walking into the studio while she's practicing to tell her something that Lermontov said.
Yeah, no, that's true. I did find myself thinking while watching the movie, like towards the end, I was like, wait a second, we still don't know like anything about her, like where she comes from, what's her background, does she have parents, does she have like, where'd she go to school? Like we know nothing about this woman except that she dances.
That's true. Yeah.
She's center stage, but this is Lermontov's movie. In my opinion.
We maybe speculate about what she's thinking and feeling just based on the close-up of, like, I don't know, her face and some of the theatrical makeup she was wearing. I like studying. I had to pause some of the makeup shots just to.
Yeah, the makeup was cool.
Yeah. It's painted so dramatically, so you can be seen from all the way in the back of the theater. Facial expressions.
There was an interesting thing that I felt while watching this movie that I want to know if anybody else had the same reaction, but like this entire movie was done on sets. Like it has matte painting backgrounds, like small rooms. There are actually like a couple of times where like somebody will leave a scene, but in a direction that the door's not, which is kind of funny to me, but I don't think it was done on purpose. I think they just like had to leave the shot so the camera could move in kind of thing, but it's still like there's clearly not a wall over here and they just got out the only way they could. So the thing that looked like it was on the stage the least was the stage performance.
To an extent, yeah.
I mean, there's no way you'd be able to watch that ballet.
No, for sure. No, in that regard, no.
Like you mean on continuously on stage as if you were in the audience?
Yeah.
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 The way the production's done, the ways she moves through things, there's no possible way you could ever do that on a stage. And it's the only part of the movie that looks like it's not on a stage.
The shoe change. Yeah.
Yeah. Magical ballet.
A feeling.
Who was the shoemaker and the who played? Maybe they're not shown here in this cast slide, and it's hard to tell the makeup.
Yeah, it is hard to tell. I imagine it's either Leonid Messine or Robert Helpman. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's Leonid Messina.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. He supposedly was a very influential ballet person in real life. I don't know anything about ballet really, but in looking at his Wikipedia page, you can read about him. He was apparently very influential in like popularizing it or something.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it more. I did want to do more research on these guys, and I just did not have the bandwidth to do it this month. There's always more research I want to do on these movies that I am incredibly grateful for Derek doing it. But I did, yeah, that was the point that I wanted to make. I feel like I'm talking a lot this time, but I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, and it's kind of a wacky movie.
It is a bit of a wacky movie.
This movie started ballet horror.
Horror.
You see ballet as like a kind of parallel to horror in a lot of different places in media. So like, you have the Black Swan and Suspiria kind of thing, but it's also like you have a lot of ballerinas in movies that meet terrible fates. And it makes sense because ballet is an art form that you kind of have to give your soul to do. Like it consumes your life. I have met professional ballerinas and they have like one day off a month. Like they are very, very busy. Like that is their life. So it's a very consuming kind of art form, and I can see why it gets drawn into like a lot of these kind of psychological thriller dramas. And as a parallel to just like the mental state. But one of the interesting things that I learned was, there was ballet on film before this, but it was always viewed as a stage performance. And so it was always shot with a static camera that would just follow. And in this movie, they moved it. So you have shots where it zooms in on the characters. You see just their faces. There's a really neat scene when she's doing Swan Lake where the camera is her turning. And so it's taking you out from like the stage as a whole and into the characters as they're dancing and into the mental state of what they're doing while they're dancing. So this actually like kickstarted the ballet and horror movies and psychological movies because I guess nobody thought that you could move the camera in on a dancer. The dance was the performance, not a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, something else that I thought was really notable about this film, and maybe there are others in this regard, but like the whole cast is dancers. Like, and there is a practical reason for that. Like, there wasn't, you couldn't CGI Natalie Portman's face on a professional dancer like you can today. But, you know, these are not traditionally actors, they are dancers first and foremost, and it shows because the dancing is so incredible in the movie.
Mhm.
I mean, they're also very good actors, but it's like a difference between like now you wouldn't really see that. Like in circus films, they don't really cast circus artists, maybe for like background or for coaching, but mostly they cast named actors. It was a different time.
I don't know if Moira Shearer did more movies before this. I know that Powell and Pressburger reuse a lot of their artists or a lot of their actors, so a lot of these guys were in other films.
Yeah, I think this was Moira's first movie ever. She
Yeah.
did later appear in Powell's kind of serial killer movie in 1960, Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
And yeah, Anton Walbrook was in one of their previous movies. The what is it? Colonel Blimp, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, or whatever. But yeah, as for like what you were saying about ballet horror, I definitely agree with it, and I also it did more than start a ballet horror trend. It basically started a ballet trend in Hollywood in general. Because it after this movie, a bunch of huge Hollywood musicals just started putting ballet interludes in the middle. Like the first one after this I think was An American in Paris, but then also Singing in the Rain also has this ballet sequence in the middle of the movie. So yeah, it was a trendsetter in terms of that.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where you watch it now, and in a way you kind of have to step back and be like, this changed the game for things. This was probably mind-boggling when it came out, and it's an absolutely gorgeous movie now. And when we say the middle of the movie, for anybody out there, we're talking about the 17-minute ballet sequence that's in the middle of the movie. That is honestly kind of like the big point of the movie.
Yeah, kind of a climax when you think like after that, it's all kind of just fluff.
It's kind of like, oh no, we have a plot we still have to figure out.
The very ending seemed kind of, I don't know, abrupt, or was it just
Yeah.
me? She's like, oh,
Yeah. Oh, I no longer want to do anything. I just want to not live, not have to make this choice.
like when you take a minute or two and
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall this movie is pretty much about like the choice between having a personal life and like doing everything for art. And overall I love this movie, especially the ballet in the middle, but I do think that the romantic plot doesn't really hold up. Like of course her choice or like the way the guy comes at her in the end when he's dressed in kind of that leather coat, the Julian Craster, like her supposed romantic partner, the way he comes for her when he's dressed in a leather, to me it looks like a Nazi coat, and is telling her that he has to choose or whatever. It does seem kind of random, and I don't think their romance is very compelling. So it doesn't seem like an actual choice. Like the way the movie presents it, of course she should choose ballet over this controlling guy or whatever. Or
Yeah.
well, I mean, Lermontov is also controlling, but like I don't know, her romantic guy suddenly becomes controlling at the end, and it just is sort of random. But yeah, I think for me, like what I love about it, I first saw this movie in 2010 when I rented it on Blu-ray. Because a lot of filmmakers talk about this, like Martin Scorsese is always talking about it, and um, his usual editor, Thelma Schoonmaker, was married to one of the directors of this movie. And the thing that I always loved about it was near the beginning when Lermontov first comes to Moira Shearer and he asks her, "Why do you want to dance?" And she almost without hesitation says, "Why do you want to live?" That quote just kind of made me fall in love with it because I was feeling similar things. Like I just want to make movies and make that my entire life. And there's not really a reason for it. It's just like what I want to do. And it was just a pure expression of that. And so I loved that quote, and I loved how Lermontov was sort of portrayed as kind of similar to a film director. Like he is very manipulative and controlling. So those are his negative qualities. But for the people in his inner circle, he is actually friendly to them, and he allows them to create their best work. And he's sort of like in scenes with them, he's kind of joking around with them or whatever, as long as they play by his rules. And I thought that was a very good expression of how collaborative art often comes together. Like, hopefully, you can do it without being manipulative and like telling people not to marry or
Right.
meddling in their
Vindictive.
personal lives. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, without the vindictiveness. But it's yeah, those are some of the things I love about this movie. And on top of that is like the incredible cinematography and dancing and stuff like that.
I
Yeah,
love
and-
Technicolor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is
This was shot in color, right?
yeah, it was shot with Technicolor, so it was shot with the 3 bands, which means they shot it using. This is something Derek probably knows more about. Old school Technicolor, like all kind of has this look, and I am obsessed with it. But this one specifically, I feel like uses a lot of color theory to really bring out the red of the shoes, along with her red hair, and it's all very moody. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Technicolor in general.
Yeah. I loved the color palettes in this movie, and it all seemed super intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, specifically, this is sort of differentiated from traditional Technicolor. They usually call it 3-strip Technicolor because the camera shoots each primary color on a separate strip of film. So there's a red strip of film, a green strip, and a blue strip, and the cameras were huge for this type of production. And so after shooting each color separately, it would be combined in post processing. I'm not entirely sure what the process was exactly. Like, I don't know the details. I know that it had to be highly precise because if one of the strips is like out of alignment, it would all like be worthless, basically. Like it would just look like a mess and not make any sense. But for whatever reason, like this process of having 3 strips and then combining them produced unbelievably vivid colors. And movies like The Wizard of Oz is probably the most famous movie that was shot with this process. But and also Gone with the Wind. But yeah, Powell and Pressburger, these two British filmmakers, and their cinematographer Jack Cardiff, they used this multiple times, in various different movies. But The Red Shoes was definitely the movie where they really, really went for it. Like they really highlighted what makes this 3-strip process special.
Yeah, it was a beautiful movie. I especially liked how all of the interstitial titles were practical. Like there were very little like overlay titles going on at all in the film. And then all the little interstitials were all actual set pieces.
Yeah,
I thought that
so
was really cool.
they had a production guy and they pretty much gave him free reign for
Awesome.
all of this. But yes, I absolutely adore the just like putting a new sticker on the suitcase.
Yeah. I love the one where it's like towards the end when he's brooding in his office and it's like a cigarette tray and like a letter or something, and that's it was a beautiful shot, wonderful frame. I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, is this a photograph? And then he actually picks it up, so it's like, no, this is the film.
Yeah, I would just add, like, if you get the chance to watch this on the 4K Blu-ray version, because the colors are even better on that one. The 4K Blu-ray, I mean, this is really technical, nerdy stuff, but basically the 4K Blu-ray uses 12-bit color Dolby Vision, so it's exponentially more colors, like more accurate colors than the regular Blu-ray version, and definitely more than the DVD version, and definitely more than the streaming version. But yeah. Anyway.
No, I think that's absolutely worthwhile for this movie. This movie, yeah, it looks phenomenal. I did get this is like I absolutely adore everything about the first half of this movie up until the ballet, and then there's the ballet, and then I feel like everything after that is like lacking in a way, like it loses steam really hardcore. Opening scene, flawless. Love the opening scene of just like all of these like I assume college students, because these are their teachers, all rushing in, like they've all been waiting, running up the stairs. It shows the poster, so you know exactly like who's playing, and it lists everybody's names and just like their conversations that they're having. I love that opening. And yeah, everything up until essentially the ballet, or
Yeah.
I guess including the ballet, everything up to and including the ballet.
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the later parts are weaker. I will say that I thought it was very powerful after she jumps, how Lermontov has the ballet people do the production, but without her. And so the spotlight is just shining on an empty place in the stage. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It happens after she jumps. I thought that was a very powerful idea. But yeah, in general, I do agree that the second half after the ballet is generally weaker.
Yeah, me too.
Could you imagine being somebody in the audience for that show? Just like the guy comes out, essentially tells you that the star has recently died and they're still going to put on the show without her, and then you just watch a spotlight that you can't see because you're in the audience.
Yeah. I'd wondered if any stage versions of The Red Shoes have been done by any ballet company. I haven't looked into it, but I was just wondering.
Like adds the actual ballet.
Just like an adaptation of it that would work, as a stage production. I don't know. I wonder. I bet it's been done by somebody, or a snippet of it.
Yeah, someone
looking
must
it up.
have tried, but I really don't know. When I was looking up, um, like the background of this movie, I was wondering if The Red Shoes was already a ballet that existed and they just sort of adapted it to this film. But from what I can tell, it's an original ballet. It's just based on this existing fairy tale. So everything was created for this film. But as for if anyone's tried doing it after this film, I don't. I couldn't find anything like that, so I'm
Okay.
not sure.
I have found things.
Oh.
So it was adapted in 1993 as a stage musical, but it shut down after previews and only having 5 performances. In 2005, Ballet Ireland produced a version of it, but it was more
Interesting.
to Sergei Diaghilev. Diaghilev was one inspiration for the character of Lermontov.
Ballet Ireland.
It was adapted into a ballet that was choreographed by Matthew Bourne and premiered in 2016 in London. The production used music adapted from film scores, including The Ghost and Mrs. Muir and Vertigo, in place of the actual score for The Red Shoes. And it seems like that's it. The last one is a documentary about Moira Shearer.
It seems like it would be a difficult production to adapt, even taking away all of the exclusive to film angles and things like that, because the star would have to be very, very in shape to be able to perform it.
Yep.
Super athletic and lots of stamina.
Yeah, also, it kind of falls into the category of one of those things of you could try to do it, but you're never going to live up to what it is, and so it will always be a letdown.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Which is unfortunate. I am going to pull up my normal slides here. I think I also have one where it's what it won.
I also was impressed by a lot of the cinematography choices in this movie. Like, I haven't seen that in a lot of like old 1940s and 50s films, of like the extreme close-ups and over the shoulder shots of musicians playing sheet music, like just things like I don't think I've seen that before, those kinds of choices.
I kept trying to figure out like what movies came out around the same time as this, but like for this time frame, it's actually kind of difficult to do. They all kind of jumble together in my head, and when you look it up, it's very all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know this era of film too well either.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure what came out. Was the year 1948? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 1948.
Post World War II.
Yeah, and that was a big thing with Powell and Pressburger because England had to go through rationing and things like that. So there was this movie actually benefited from that because there was some type of tariff, or I don't know what it was, but it was something that was blocking Hollywood movies from coming to Britain. So so they and their producer sort of took advantage of this in a way to sort of make as many exclusively British movies as they could in that time period. But yeah, the point about like the inventive cinematography, I can't really think of anything else either. But their other movies are also very good. Like before this, I think they made The Black Narcissus, and that one is also very inventive. It takes place in India, I think, and it uses a lot of matte paintings, and it's like in a convent in India, and there's a bunch of famous shots of like the main character like in a bell tower or something looking down, and it's all a matte painting, and it's all done also with the 3-strip Technicolor process, so it all looks incredibly colorful and stuff. And I'll also just mention their other movie that I like the best, other than The Red Shoes, is called A Matter of Life and Death, though it's also called A Stairway to Heaven. And I think this is the movie that Led Zeppelin based their song Stairway to Heaven on, because it's all about a World War II pilot who he crashes, but he gets sort of caught in between life and death. So there's like, he's partially going to heaven but partially staying on earth, and like it's been a while since I've seen it, so there's like this bureaucracy in heaven that he has to go through to either ascend or go back to earth. But anyway, that one is pretty incredible as well. It also has a lot of very fantastical elements and like angels, and there is an actual stairway to heaven. Like I think it's a matte painting, but it's like this incredible angelic looking stairway. But anyway, so yeah, Powell and Pressburger were very good at like inventive shots in general. But apart from their movies, I mean, I guess Alfred Hitchcock was also pretty inventive with like Vertigo. I can't remember what year that was, but yeah, there wasn't that much going on in terms of cinematography, I don't think, at that time period.
So Vertigo was after by about 10 years. It was 1958, but Citizen Kane would have been earlier on in the 40s. And one of the things that I'm going to make a guess, I'm going to have a hypothesis here. I have no basis for the statement, but also Disney was king at this time, and I could see a lot of that they could possibly take influence from that, which is like the way that they do matte painting coloring and like the way that things are layered on stage, and a lot of the effects that I saw are also things that I would see in early like animation. So I am curious whether or not they were fans of animation and that played a part in how they designed their sets. I have zero basis for that other than I was looking at what the most popular movies of this time are, and outside of Gone with the Wind, that was at the top of the chart for like 5 years starting in 1940. Yeah, Citizen Kane was on there, which is a very inventive movie, and then it was a lot of Disney, so like Fantasia, Bambi, like Fantasia specifically, were happening around this time. So those are mostly the popular things for the time frame. Was quite a bit of those old Disney movies as well.
I could kind of see possible influence there. Yeah.
Yeah, zero basis. Just wouldn't be surprised if someone told me that.
The way some of the sets were painted.
But yeah, I don't know their work, and I definitely want to go back through and look through all of it because I am a huge fan of the look.
I loved the scene where she was standing out on the balcony with the composer Crester, and it was like obviously a painted sunset on a set, and then you see the steam engine roll by.
Yeah. Really close to them somehow.
Yeah, well, and it was really close in the wide shot at the end.
That's true. She did jump from the balcony.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to catch her in his arms. He was like, oh, like,
I know.
I don't know if that'll work, but
it's a movie. It could have worked.
Who knows?
You didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, he could have broken her fall.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Derek's point about his leather getup at the end. Like, it made him look super severe and like villainous. Like, and you want to run away with this guy?
Yeah.
I did really like her tiny tiara, her tiny crown that
That
she
was,
wore to
that
get
was
the
so
part.
funny.
I
She
did
went on
Yeah.
this. She went on this whole adventure to get there. It took her what looked like a long time. She spent forever walking upstairs, and they're just like, "You got the part, bye." She's like
Yeah,
wearing a full gown and a little
yeah,
crown.
and she's all dressed up. Okay, go to sleep. Girl, I put a crown on my head. You go to sleep.
She also says she's not dressed when she gets the note of "meet me at this time," so she got dressed up specifically for this. And then she was like, "I was just heading out when I got your note," to cover
Ah.
up with it.
Gorgeous blue gown, I thought.
Oh yeah, I'm not joking when I say I think that more of us should wear tiny crowns.
Well, yeah, maybe. If it wouldn't look too pretentious, I guess.
It
It was-
made sense when she was like the first scene that we see her at the theater in the box. But yeah, I thought for that outfit it was a little funny.
I'd never seen a tiara like that before, so it was, I don't know, interesting. I found myself looking at some of the non stage costumes, the movie costumes off
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely interesting styling. I wonder why that choice was made.
It was just what was hot at the time.
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't have much else. I mean, you can see here it won Best Original Score and Best Art Direction, which it absolutely should have.
Yeah.
I think Best Film Editing, just for that spiral staircase that keeps going, should have earned it one. But yeah, it got nominated for some big things, which is pretty impressive because like it didn't top the charts for anything in the year it came out. It made most of its money back for rentals. It had like a limited release in the US, which I have an easier time finding stats for. But I don't know how it was received in the UK, but within the rest of the world, it made most of its money back after rentals. So I think it's actually pretty impressive that it got nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay.
How long was the theatrical release?
No idea. Wait, what am I doing? I make slides.
The movie was what, 2 hours and 15 minutes, or at least the
Yeah,
version-
134 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have had an intermission in the middle of it.
right.
I imagined right after the ballet. But man, she did so many different shows after that in such a short period of time. They were like, yeah, you're going to be the lead on like these 17 different shows.
Mhm.
Is that weird anyone else out? No, just me? Okay.
Well, I assumed it was over a period of years. Like, definitely not all at once.
Well, he says at some point, he says, before we come back next year, which makes me feel like all of this happened over the course of a year.
Yeah. That makes
like
sense.
a minimum. That's still a lot of parts to like originate in a year.
Yeah.
What I thought was impressive and pulled me out for a little bit actually was when they said that the entire ballet, The Red Shoes, was produced in 3 weeks. I was like, no, it was not.
Yeah, I would doubt that too.
I know how these things work. It was definitely not.
Well, maybe you weren't a part of Lermontov's company.
Our ballets are not, well, sorry, Lee, if she's not watching it. Well, they're not nearly as impressive as Red Shoes. I wish we could say that they are, but and it takes we take months to rehearse.
Yeah. And not just rehearsals, set building, decorating, costume making, like everything takes a long amount of time, and that's, without considering notes back and forth. Like, they didn't make any changes along the way. It was all just one and done. Okay.
I actually have a question for you, Sam.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
don't know if you can answer this, but like, is it common for your leading man to also be teaching the ballet class?
No,
Okay.
we don't have a leading man actually. Well, we don't have what they call principal dancers. That's just our company philosophy. It's meant to be the antithesis to what I guess shall we
Right.
say there are political issues or barriers in the ballet world.
It seemed like he was the dance director.
Yeah, I think at some point he says he's coming up with all the choreography, and I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
he's
you're
like the
wearing too many
choreographer
hats,
and the
man.
director. And there's a different, like at the end when she goes back to the ballet class, there's a teacher. There's a ballet teacher that we never met before.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think.
Yeah, because I kind of assumed, and this is an assumption on my part, that like ballet, being a principal dancer for a ballet works kind of similar to being a principal player in an opera, where you have like 5 parts that are your parts, and when you get hired in a contract, that's the part you're playing. And I kind of imagine that like ballet, since it is kind of similar of, the dances don't change really from ballet, like ballet performance to ballet performance, unless you're doing like something very specific with a choreographer. So I imagine you just specialize in a certain choreography. Which isn't to say that like you don't become like a chorus for the other ones or anything like along those lines, but I kind of always assumed that it worked that way. Of you had like a few parts that you were very, very familiar with, and that's what you would get hired for.
That makes sense. Our director, she'll tend to. I mean, well, she'll in her mind she just casts how she wants it to look. That's just how it works, and she's really our director happens to be really good at casting people for the best role, the role they're best suited for. And we have people who are, near beginners to, super advanced. But just to save time and like not having to redo everything, she'll cast people in roles that they know,
Mhm.
But she
Mhm.
changes things up. If you saw our Halloween show,
Yeah, I did see your Halloween show.
and we're going to be doing it again this fall, but it'll be told slightly differently. She varies it actually slightly with each retelling. We had 2 women. It was a romance between actually 2 women, but this time there's going to be a male-female romance.
I was so
Lame.
excited for you to be like 3 women. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was like,
add another one in every year. Let's go.
4 witches, or no, there's 5 witches. This
Yeah,
time.
you'll have to keep me updated on that, because that was a great show and I really enjoyed myself. And I'm sorry that I didn't wait afterwards to come talk to you.
Oh,
I came with my friend who's a nurse, and she had a really early morning shift, and so I had to get her home.
oh yeah. I'm glad you came. I hope to see you in the fall again. Yeah, I'll definitely post about it. Once we start getting the word out.
yeah.
We are approaching an hour, so I did wanted to ask if anybody had anything else that they really wanted to talk to about with this film.
The only other thing that I would touch on is just how it seems so much ballet cinema is like an allegory for the actual ballet world. And that's why it tends to lean into the horror aspect, because ballet is so toxic. Like, I've never really been super involved in it, but a friend of mine was a dancer, a ballerina for a long time, and just the amount of control and abuse and anorexia and just like horrible stuff that goes on in the ballet world. It's no wonder that the films that are based on it lean into horror.
Yeah,
We take that kind of thing seriously at our company. No sizism. diverse body sizes and shapes.
The one that always surprised me was I had a friend who was a ballerina and she stopped being a ballerina. She remained a dancer, but was like, I am never doing ballet again. And she was so excited about it because she got to cut her hair
Oh man.
because she had to keep her hair long so that it could be put up in a specific way.
Oh really?
Right.
And she was so excited to cut her hair. And I just think, and I'm like, I can't imagine just having that, like be like, I quit my job. I can finally do my hair differently.
I mean, I can empathize with that because in acting, it's the same way. So when I quit acting, I was like, I'm going to dye my hair blue.
Oh, like yeah.
But and then the last thing I wanted to mention is the dance outfits were so hilarious to me. Like when they were towards the end in the class after she comes back to the company, and they're all just wearing like bathing suits, I guess. I don't know. It was funny. But then you think about, oh, this is before the leotard. So what else were they going to wear?
Oh, the leotard. I want to look into the invention of the leotard.
Oh, it's actually quite fascinating.
I actually hate leotards and tights, by the way. 'Cause they
I
fall-
love them. They're great for aerial. Nothing gets stuck.
Well,
It
tights
made
don't
me-
fit well.
It made me laugh because Moira Shearer had a tear in the back of her tights.
Oh,
in
yeah.
both the scene at the beginning and the end because they were the same tights, and I was like, they're like a year apart. But it just like it was something that I noticed the first time, so I noticed it the second time. But yeah. Oh, leotards.
Leotards are okay when they fit properly, which most honestly discount dance clothing lanes are made. Well, they're made for 10-year-olds or 12. So
Yeah, there's like a weird whole history about that. That's why in the 80s they had like double layers of things, is because of leotards, and it wasn't until the 90s that they made them comfortable. Anyways, that's my weird history point for today.
I didn't know that was before the leotard. Actually, that's interesting.
Yeah, I
I
forget
don't know
when
if
they
it's
were.
be-
They
yeah.
were invented fairly recently. I did some research on this.
I don't like skin tight clothes in general. So yeah, I guess I chose the wrong hobby, but I often wear shorts and socks.
Yeah,
I mean,
1960.
yeah. And they didn't know how to bring, because like when you think about pants and like the way that pants connect, it's different than how leotards were. And that's why in like you always see like the bathing suit over the leotards in old times, is because that was the only way they could wear it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait,
Without it-
Google
without it
misled
getting
me.
all of it. Leotards existed for a long time. They just didn't
Yeah,
exist
it was
comfortably or
invented
for
in
women.
the 1800s, but mostly worn by like circus artists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It
It is,
didn't really make it into mainstream like dance and stuff until later.
It's for hygiene. If you're changing costumes and stuff too. It's also you need an underlayer and under
Yeah.
the costume because you can't
Yeah,
really.
I just thought their like practice outfits were funny.
All right. If no one else has anything to add, I think I will cut the stream for tonight. But I wanted to thank you guys for joining me and watching a movie with me. And I hope you'll watch the next one with me as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.